Dear security guards of Reddit, what was the most fucked up thing you've ever saw on your shift? This was the most graphic and disturbing thing I have ever seen. It led to me leaving the security sector for good. I had worked several years on the doors around my city. I thought I'd seen it all. It hadn't come close. I had enough of working the doors and decided it was time to move to a more relaxed security job. I got hired working the graveyard shift 5 days a week at a university campus halls. Me and another guy looked after 6 different blocks, all with 32 flats in each. One night we got several calls to our emergency line from residents in the 3rd block saying they heard shouting and screaming coming from the 4th floor. I headed out from our office and left my colleague there in case there were any other calls or issues. I got to the 3rd building and couldn't hear anything from outside. I got the lift up to the 4th floor and still heard nothing. I radioed over to my colleague and he said he had received another call from a student inside the flat and he was on his way. He let me know the student had also called the police and they were on their way. The student feared one of her flatmates had attacked another flatmate. My buddy got up to me and we decided it would be safe to enter the flat rather than wait for the police as we couldn't hear any more commotion. We unlocked the door and went inside. There was a straight corridor down leading to the kitchen, and then 4 rooms on each side. There was a large hole in the wall about halfway down the corridor, covered in blood, with a significant amount of blood also running down from the hole to the floor. There was a trail of blood leading from there all the way to the kitchen, as if someone bleeding had been dragged along the floor. We could hear some talking coming from inside the kitchen but couldn't hear what was said. However, it sounded unnervingly calm. We immediately phoned for the police and an ambulance as evidently someone was seriously injured. The police advised we waited for them, but with it being a busy Saturday night there was a delay. The student's safety was our priority, so he entered the flat. There was a puddle of about 1 liter of blood below the hole in the wall. We stepped over this and followed the blood trail straight into the kitchen. We could still hear someone talking in the kitchen. We made our presence known, shouted that we were security and that we were about to enter the kitchen. My colleague went in first. I followed closely behind. Sat at the back of the room, on top of the kitchen counter, was a teenager, and below him, a body drenched in blood with torn-up clothes. The teen was sat muttering to himself, holding a kitchen knife covered in blood in his hand. We shouted over for him to explain what had happened and to tell us if the person below him was okay. He ignored us and carried on muttering to himself. He looked calm, completely unaffected by the body laying beneath him. I went back to the corridor and called into the police to get them there as soon as possible and to bring an ambulance as high priority. My buddy radioed in to get more security over from other accommodations immediately. After what seemed like forever, but was probably a few minutes, the police arrived. They arrested the teen, meaning it was now safe for me and my colleague to start first aid on the victim until the ambulance arrived. In total he had over 60 stab wounds, from the face down to his waist. His head had also clearly taken a large impact from the wall. When the paramedics arrived he was sadly pronounced dead at the scene. We spoke to the flatmate who had called us. Luckily she was the only other person in the flat at the time. Apparently the 2 boys had begun fighting because one had accidentally drank the other's alcohol. It then escalated.